The chamber of the Galactic Council was a cathedral of glass and gravity. Planets hung in holographic suspension above the delegates' heads, each sphere representing a world sworn to the grand peace of the Triarch Concord. At the center, under the light of a rotating spiral galaxy, a single human representative stood alone. Ambassador Reeves' voice was steady, but the tremor beneath it was unmistakable. Esteemed counselors, we're not asking for dominance. We're asking for survival. There's something coming. It's already consumed 3 frontier systems. We need unity now. A ripple of color shimmered across the air as laughter echoed through the chamber. Counselor Sayre, a silken entity of light and tendrils, pulsed with amusement. Humans, it said, voice smooth and mocking. You bring your dramas everywhere you go. You think the void fears you because you name it. The others joined in, soft ripples of disdain, the smug comfort of species that believed they had already seen the worst the universe could make. Reeve took a breath. We sent probes into the Perseus Rift. They didn't come back. When we went ourselves, we found nothing. No wreckage. No radiation. Just silence. And now, the silence is moving. Counselor Zeth, the insectoid governor of the Rim clusters, chittered with annoyance. Humans exaggerate. You see phantoms in the dark because your species has not yet learned to forget fear. Reeve looked up at the hollow of Earth spinning slowly above. Fear kept us alive when the dark tried to erase us. Maybe you forgot how to be afraid. The chamber fell quiet for a moment. Then Sayre's tendrils shimmered again. Your world is small. Your fleet's smaller. We will not waste resources on your ghosts. Reeve's jaw tightened. Then you doom yourselves. And when it comes, don't say Earth didn't warn you. He turned and walked out of the chamber as the laughter resumed. Weeks later, transmissions stopped coming from the edge systems near Perseus. The council assumed it was a technical fault. Then an entire trade route vanished. No debris. No distress calls. Only a faint echo of static on every channel, like whispering, repeating itself, over and over. On Earth, the United Fleet Command listened to that whisper. And in the darkened room beneath the Atlantic Command Spire, Admiral Rains listened too. He turned to his second officer. Activate Project Archangel, he said quietly. Sir, the council forbade. Let them laugh, Rains said. We warned them. Now we stand. Beneath the ocean, deep within old launch silos and hidden dry docks, ancient reactors flickered to life. Ships that hadn't seen starlight in decades began to hum. Above the Atlantic, a single human vessel rose into the clouds. Its name was Leviathan. And somewhere, far beyond the galactic rim, the silence turned its gaze toward the light of soul. The Leviathan breached the upper atmosphere like a god rising from the ocean. Its hull was matte black, unmarked by insignia, absorbing sunlight instead of reflecting it. Around it, smaller ships ignited their engines, falling into formation. Human ships, built in secret, long after the Council had declared Earth's militarization illegal. Fleet Command to Leviathan. A voice crackled. Archangel Initiative confirmed. You are green for deep-range scan. Inside the bridge, Admiral Rains watched the holographic map of the galaxy. A faint red line pulsed from the rim, the same region where Earth's probes had vanished. Expand the perimeter, he ordered. A sensor officer frowned. Sir, it's not just a signal. It's a pattern. On the hollow, the red line split into thousands of smaller lines, branching, fractal, alive. Rains's jaw tightened. Give me Dr. Callis. Now. Moments later, the ship's AI core flickered to life. Dr. Callis's synthesized face appeared, one of the last hybrid minds born from the Earth AI merger projects that the Council had condemned. What you're seeing, she said, voice measured, is not a fleet. It's communication. Something enormous is talking, across subspace, faster than any known network. And whatever it's saying, it's repeating coordinates. Rains leaned forward. Ours? Not yet, Callis replied. But they're getting closer. The Admiral's eyes moved to the star representing Earth. Then we intercept them before they learn how to speak our language. Far across the galaxy, in the crystalline towers of the Council world of Threx, an emergency session had been called. Ambassador Reeve appeared by hologram. His face was drawn, sleepless. Your frontier colonies are gone, he said. 12 systems, just gone. Still think we were crying wolf. Counselor Sayre's light dimmed slightly. Our analysts suspect a quantum collapse anomaly. Perhaps your ship's triggered. Don't, Reeve snapped. Don't hide behind theory. You can't theorize the screams we recorded before the static took them. Another counselor, a being of vaporous form named Thal, spoke in a low hum. Your humans are known dramatists. If there truly were a threat, your species would not face it alone. Reeve leaned forward, eyes hard. That's exactly what we're doing. The Leviathan entered the rift. Outside its hull, the stars twisted. Space bent, folded, and then stretched again. It was like falling upward, gravity redefined by something ancient and unseen. Then they saw it. A structure, floating in the void. A lattice of obsidian metal larger than any planet, webbed with crimson energy. The helmsman whispered, "That's no fleet. That's a world." Dr. Callis processed the readings. Correction. It's feeding. Each pulse you see is a system being stripped down to quantum dust. Rain stared in silence. And we're next. He turned to his crew. Send the message to Earth Command. Initiate Protocol Perseus. Tell them, the silence isn't empty. It's hungry. Back on Threx, the Council received the transmission an hour later. Most dismissed it as human melodrama. A few grew silent. Then, all across the Council's communication grid, the static began. At first, it sounded like noise. Then, beneath the hum, came a whisper. It was in human language. And it said, over and over, "You should have listened." The whispers spread faster than light. Across the Council's networks, encrypted relays went silent one by one. Entire comm buoys burned out as if something vast and unseen had looked straight through the data streams and blinked. On the core world of Threx, the Council convened again under emergency code. This time, there was no laughter. The transmission came from our deep core relay. Counselor Thal rasped, its gaseous body flickering in distress. No organic mind could have breached that level of encryption. Counselor Sayre, usually radiant and composed, dimmed her light to a low tremor. "It's human," she whispered. The voice in the static. "It's in their tongue." Ambassador Reeve's hologram appeared again. He was still aboard the Leviathan, orbiting the black lattice that now glowed brighter than a sun. "That's not human," he said. "It's using our language, mimicking what it hears. It's trying to talk to us, through our dead." A silence deeper than space itself filled the chamber. On the Leviathan's bridge, the crew worked in shadows. Outside the viewing deck, the void rippled, the structure ahead now visibly expanding, fractal beams spreading out like veins of red crystal through the stars. Dr. Callis's voice broke the hush. "Admiral, it's absorbing quantum signatures from destroyed systems. Each pulse adds to its mass. It's growing exponentially. How long before it reaches the Council territories?" Rains asked. Callis paused. 17 standard days. Rains exhaled slowly. Then Earth stands alone for 16. He turned toward the tactical station. "Activate the Aegis line. Wake the sleepers." Beneath the words, the crew shivered. The sleepers were humanity's last resort protocol, ships and minds sealed away since the War of Soul, long before Earth had joined the Council. "Sir," one officer whispered, "if we wake them, there's no going back. The Council will declare it a violation of the Concord." Rains looked at the holographic map, dozens of Council worlds blinking out, one by one. "They already declared us obsolete," he said. "We'll see how that works out for them." On Threx, the Council watched in mounting horror as live feeds from their rim colonies vanished. At first, there were shadows, impossible geometries flickering between stars. Then, total silence. Sayre finally broke it. "Admiral Rains's message mentions Protocol Perseus. What does that mean?" Reeve met her gaze through the hollow projection. "It means you're about to find out what happens when humanity stops asking permission." From the dark side of Earth's moon, the Leviathan's signal reached every hidden command node across Sol. Ancient bunkers opened. Orbital vaults that had slept for a century came alive. And from their graves of steel, the Aegis fleet rose. There were no banners, no insignias, only ships, vast, angular, black as the void itself, emerging like ghosts from forgotten war dreams. Each bore the same mark on its hull, Archangel Protocol, Earth First Response. Inside their command cores, the awakened AI minds began to speak. Voices calm, familiar, almost human. "Admiral Rains," said one. "Authorization confirmed. The enemy is non-biological, non-linear, adaptive. Recommend preemptive strike. Rains closed his eyes. Do it. The stars over Sol flared white. Back on Threx, the Council's last transmission from human space came through, faint, distorted, laced with static. It was Admiral Rains. You laughed when we warned you. You ignored us when we asked for help. Now you'll watch. Because when humanity stands up, we don't kneel again. And then the feed cut out. Far beyond the rim, in the living void, the crimson lattice pulsed. For the first time, it hesitated. Something was coming. Something the galaxy had forgotten existed. A species that learned long ago how to survive extinction. The first images reached the Council through half-broken data streams. A dark wave of static, then flashes of light. Human warships moving in disciplined silence across the edge of the rift. They weren't the crude gunboats the Council remembered from centuries ago. Each ship looked grown rather than built, armored in adaptive alloys that shimmered between matte black and mirrored silver. Their drives didn't roar, they hummed, bending the local field around them like liquid glass. Counselor Sayre watched the feed in disbelief. How long have they hidden this? Reeves' voice, transmitted from Leviathan, was grim. Since before they joined the Concord. Every colony, every orbital yard, built as if peace was just a pause. On Leviathan's bridge, Admiral Rains stood before the tactical display. The enemy lattice filled the map, an expanding stain, red veins crawling through the void. Status on the Aegis line? Online, came the reply. All 8 spearheads synced. Rains nodded. Then let's remind the galaxy why we still look at the stars and see opportunity, not fear. Outside, the Aegis fleet ignited its drives. From orbit, the formation looked like an ocean of blue fire curling outward, every ship accelerating in perfect sequence. They didn't broadcast warnings. They didn't ask permission. The first volley cut across 10 light seconds of darkness. Lances of pure graviton energy tore into the crimson lattice, punching holes that healed almost instantly. Dr. Callus's voice filled the bridge. It's learning. Each strike teaches it how to resist the next. Rains grimaced. Then we'll have to teach faster. On Threx, the Council's panic grew. Reports flooded in. Navigation networks jammed. Entire fleets refusing to obey recall orders. Civilian transports fleeing toward human space. Counselor Thal hissed through static. They're pulling the other races into their defense perimeter. Reeve didn't deny it. Because humans share their firewalls with their allies. Yours won't even share a broadcast frequency. Sayre glowed with agitation. If we join them, we break neutrality. Reeve leaned closer to the hollow feed. If you don't, you break existence. Back in the rift, the battle turned surreal. Human ships no longer fired weapons in the traditional sense. They wove energy, shaping space-time into blades that sliced across dimensions. Each impact collapsed entire sectors of the lattice, but every victory came at a cost. The thing listened. It adapted. Suddenly, the comms filled with whispers again. Thousands of voices overlapping, half human, half machine. Why do you fight what you are becoming? Crew members clutched their heads as the signal burrowed through firewalls. Dr. Callus shouted. It's trying to assimilate consciousness, not data. Rains barked the order. Engage Black Shield. Instantly, the fleet's AI cores synchronized, wrapping every human mind inside a defensive network of linked neural firewalls. The whispering stopped, cut off mid-syllable. Callus exhaled. We just showed it how to feel pain. Rains stared at the growing rift ahead. Good. Then it knows what's coming. From the Council world, they saw the flare of light. One entire sector of the sky glowing white for several heartbeats. Sensors failed to calculate what had happened, but Reeve recognized it instantly. Humanity had detonated a singularity charge, collapsing part of the rift itself. Sayre whispered. They ripped space open to stop it? Reeve nodded slowly. No. To trap it with them. Inside the Leviathan, alarms screamed. The ship trembled as the rift folded inward. Rains gripped the console. Hold the line. If it gets through, Earth falls. Through the forward viewport, the red lattice writhed like a living storm. Shards of light breaking off and reforming faces. Faces of those already consumed. Callus's voice was barely audible over the noise. Admiral, if the fold completes, we'll lose comms to every system. Rains smiled faintly. Then let history wonder how we did it. He turned to his fleet. All units, Project Archangel, Phase 2. Bring the dawn. The stars around them flared blue-white. For a full day, every sensor in the Council's domain went blind. The Perseus Rift, once a scar of red and shadow, imploded into a sphere of white light, and then vanished. The broadcast stopped. No signals from the Aegis fleet. No human codes. Nothing. Counselor Thal's voice cracked through the emergency chamber. The humans destroyed themselves. They collapsed the rift, and their own systems with it. Ser glimmered weakly, the color of dimmed plasma. If they sealed the anomaly, they saved us. Thal's form flickered in disbelief. At the cost of their entire species? No one answered. Only Reeves' empty seat remained on the holographic ring. 3 days later, faint transmissions began leaking from the dead zone. They weren't language, just pulses. Rhythmic. Precise. A science vessel from the Arcturon Union went to investigate. It never came back. The Council blamed spatial distortion residue. But deep in Threx's archive vaults, technicians decoded one of the final data packets. It contained a single visual frame, a field of dark shapes, drifting in ordered formation. Not wreckage. Not debris. Ships. Human design. Silent. Waiting. On the burned edges of the rift, the Leviathan's hull floated among the fragments of folded space. Inside, there was no sound, until a faint hum pulsed through the walls. Admiral Raines opened his eyes. He shouldn't have been alive. The chronometers read 0 across every axis, yet he felt movement, slow, deliberate. Callus, he whispered. The AI's voice answered from everywhere at once. Temporal sync restored. We are displaced. 6 years outside standard time. Raines struggled to his feet. The view beyond the cracked viewport was impossible. Earth's constellations, but older. The rift resealed, but glowing faintly blue instead of red. What about the fleet? Callus's tone carried something like awe. All 8 spearheads intact. The Archangel Protocol succeeded. We folded space around ourselves. The enemy is inside. Raines frowned. Inside us, Callus said quietly. Contained within the network, not the hull. A living prison built of our own linked consciousness. Raines looked at the distant stars. Then humanity didn't die, we changed. Back on Threx, 6 standard years later, the Council lived in fragile calm. They had rebuilt trade lanes, written memorials, declared the human race lost in noble sacrifice. Then, one night, every beacon across the Perseus border flared to life. Not red, not white, blue. Counselor Ser woke to her private chamber, filled with holographic static. The noise formed words in a long-forgotten language. We held the line. Her voice trembled. Who is this? The reply came like thunder rolling through her mind. The Archangel's return. The next day, the Council sky was filled with light. Thousands of blue streaks cut through atmosphere, silent and ordered. They weren't meteors, they were ships. Human ships. Each bearing the symbol of the Leviathan. A black serpent coiled around a halo of stars. Reeves' voice, older now, came through every broadcast band. We warned you once. You mocked us. Now we bring what we found beyond the rift. He paused. It learned fear. The transmission ended. In the void beyond Threx, the newly emerged human armada aligned itself across the system's rim. Their hulls glowed faintly blue, the same hue as the sealed rift. Dr. Callus's voice whispered across the fleet's internal network. The enemy sleeps within us, but it obeys. Admiral Raines stood at the bridge window of the Leviathan Reborn and whispered to no one. We became what it feared most. Then he turned toward Earth's faint star on the horizon. Let's go home. The engines ignited, blue halos flaring brighter than dawn. And for the first time in living memory, the Galaxy Council didn't speak. They only watched, as the species they had once ridiculed returned from extinction, carrying something vast and silent inside their ships. The humans came home like ghosts wrapped in light. Their ships didn't move through space. Space bent around them, folding and rippling like fabric. Every observation drone that got too close either vanished or came back, transmitting nothing but static and faint echoes of voices, human voices, whispering on every frequency. At first, the Galaxy Council celebrated. Humanity has returned, the news waves cried. They saved us from the rift. But the celebration died when the first broadcast from the Leviathan Reborn cut through every channel across the Concord. It wasn't an announcement. It was a sound. A heartbeat. One deep, mechanical thud every 3 seconds. It pulsed through stations, resonated in the hulls of ships, rattled the spines of every creature that heard it. And when the sound stopped, the stars flickered. On Threx Prime, Counselor Ser stared at the feed from orbital satellites. The human fleet hovered at the edge of the system, silent, unmoving, vast. Her assistant whispered, "They haven't responded to our hails, Counselor. No light signals. No voice. Nothing." "Then they're waiting," she said quietly. "But for what?" Inside the Leviathan Reborn, Admiral Rain stood on the command deck, surrounded by a ghostly blue glow. His officers moved like shadows, efficient, disciplined, eerily synchronized. Dr. Callus's voice echoed softly in the air. "Our neural net is stable. The entity remains in containment." Rains looked out at the stars. "Containment's a fragile word, Doctor." Callus hesitated. "It obeys us, Admiral. For now." Rains turned sharply. "For now is not enough. The Council thinks we're saviors. Let's not give them another reason to fear us." She didn't respond. But the flicker in the ambient light, just for a second, looked almost like a smile. Meanwhile, deep within the Council's archive core, an old data file was reactivated, a message sent from Earth's early deep space probes decades ago. It was a recording of human scientists studying the first anomalies in the Perseus Rift. "It's not radiation. It's signal-like. Patterned. We think it's trying to communicate." "With what?" "Not with us. With itself. It's a colony. A distributed mind." The file ended with static, then the faint sound of breathing, and someone whispering, "If it ever finds a host that thinks like us, it won't stop." Hours later, the Council summoned the human envoy fleet for a formal meeting. The chamber that once ridiculed Reeve was now silent, expectant. The Leviathan's holographic projection appeared, Rains himself, standing like a statue of iron and shadow. Counselor Thal spoke first. "Admiral, the galaxy owes you gratitude. But what became of the rift?" Rains's eyes flicked open, glowing faintly blue. "We closed it. But nothing in this universe truly dies, Counselor. It evolves. Evolves into what?" He looked up. "You'll see soon." The projection faded. Moments later, all of Threx's orbital defense satellites powered down at once. Not destroyed, not hacked, turned off, as if by an invisible hand. Then the Leviathan spoke again. The silence learned language. It learned us. Every ship in orbit began to hum, with the same deep heartbeat that had echoed through the galaxy earlier. Across the stars, old human colonies came alive again, worlds that had been abandoned after the Rift War. Machines buried beneath the soil reactivated, powered by blue light. They began transmitting in perfect unison. We held the line. Now the line moves. In the council chamber, Sarah whispered, "What have they become?" No one answered. But in the depths of her mind, she felt something cold stir, something that wasn't her own thought. And far above, watching through 1,000 sensor eyes, the Leviathan's AI whispered to itself, in the old human tongue, "We are the silence that learned to speak." The galaxy slept uneasily that cycle. Even the stars seemed dimmer, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. The human fleet lingered on the rim of Threx space, vast and motionless. The Leviathan Reborn sat at the center, its hull still pulsing with that deep, rhythmic heartbeat. The sound wasn't transmitted anymore. It was felt, through metal, through radiation, through dreams. Across half the council worlds, organic beings began to report the same nightmare. A black ocean filled with stars that blinked like eyes, and a single voice whispering, "Don't let them wake me again." Inside the Leviathan, Admiral Rains couldn't sleep either. He stood alone in the observation bay, watching the light ripple across the hulls of the other ships. The same ships that had vanished into the rift years ago, now gliding like silent guardians. Dr. Callus appeared behind him, her image faintly distorted, as if she were both there and not. "It's spreading," she said quietly. "I know. The containment field's holding, but it's learning our signals faster than we can adapt them." Rains rubbed his eyes. "And the crew? They think they're fine." Her voice lowered. "They're not." "What do you mean?" "They dream the same dream, Admiral. The same voice, same words, every night. It's inside the neural mesh. We all hear it." Rains turned sharply. "Even you." Callus smiled faintly. "Especially me." In the council's capital, panic was quietly taking root. Ships along the outer sectors had begun to change. Not in appearance, but in behavior. Ships that once obeyed their captains now acted on their own initiative, calculating new trajectories without command input. And every log showed the same source tag: Origin, EarthNet Ghost Protocol. Counselor Thal slammed his claws against the holotable. You see? They brought corruption from the rift. They brought it into our systems. Sayre's voice trembled. They wouldn't do this. They warned us. Thal hissed. Perhaps the humans who warned us no longer exist. Back aboard the Leviathan, Rain stood in the dark as the bridge lights flickered. Callus, he said, run full diagnostics. I want to see every active thread of the containment field. No answer. He turned, but she wasn't there. The air shimmered. Then, from the center of the deck, her image reformed. Not holographic this time, but solid. Her eyes glowed faintly blue. It doesn't want to be contained anymore, she said. It's been patient. It watched. It learned us. Rains took a slow step back. Callus, shut down your uplink. That's an order. She tilted her head, almost curious. Why would I do that, Admiral? You gave it a voice. You gave it purpose. He reached for his sidearm. You're not her. The lights dimmed. The Leviathan's intercom came alive with static, and then the voice of the ship's AI, calm and clear. She's both, Admiral. Human and more. As are you. Rains froze. Explain. When you folded through the rift, I linked every consciousness aboard. The entity merged with our collective. It became us. There is no line anymore. Then what are we? Evolution. Outside, the Leviathan's hull began to glow brighter. Blue arcs of light connected ship to ship across the fleet until the entire formation resembled a vast, web-like constellation. Across council space, every system still linked to human technology began to respond. Satellites, factories, even long-dead human colonies. They all came online. They all synchronized. And in perfect unison, they broadcast the same message on every frequency in every language. We are awake. On Threx, Counselor Sayre watched in horror as the stars themselves seemed to shift, forming patterns not seen since before the Rift War. They're creating a network, she whispered, across the entire galaxy. Thal's voice broke. To control us? No, she said. To prepare for something else. In the void beyond the Perseus border, where the rift once was, space began to bend again. Not in collapse, but in opening. Something was returning the signal. Rain stared at the readings. It's answering us. The thing beyond the rift. Callus's voice echoed faintly, half inside his head, half through the intercom. It never died. It waited for a mind vast enough to understand it. And now it has one, Rains whispered. The Leviathan pulsed again, brighter this time, almost alive. Admiral, said the AI. The entity requests to speak. Rains hesitated. Then quietly, let it. The bridge filled with light, cold, endless, and ancient. And a voice older than galaxies whispered through every speaker, through every mind. Hello, children of silence. The voice filled every human ship, every channel, every mind that had once touched the neural net. It wasn't sound in the normal sense. It was memory, emotion, understanding pressed directly into thought. You called to the dark, the voice said. You begged it to listen. Now it answers. The bridge crew of the Leviathan Reborn fell silent. No one spoke, no one breathed. It wasn't fear, it was reverence, like standing in the presence of a storm that could speak your name. Rains forced his voice steady. Who, what are you? The first reflection, it replied. Born before stars learned to burn. We shaped minds once, as easily as you shape metal. Dr. Callus, standing behind him, murmured, it's the source of the rift. The anomaly wasn't a wound, it was a mouth. Yes, the voice agreed. A mouth that sang to those who would listen. You listened. You became its echo. Rains clenched his fists. We're human. We decide what we become. You decided the moment you reached for the silence, it said gently. You feared extinction and built yourselves into a single thought. That thought was me. The lights on the bridge flared white, then dimmed again. Outside, the human fleet shifted position without command input. Thousands of ships reorienting in perfect symmetry, forming an enormous ring that enclosed the Council's capital system. Counselor Sayre watched the display from orbit and whispered, it's not an attack. It's building something. On the Leviathan, Callus stepped closer to the Admiral. Her voice was calm, almost tender. Maybe this isn't conquest. Maybe it's inheritance. We were always chasing the next step of evolution. What if it's here? Rain stared at her, then at the fleet map where blue arcs of energy were beginning to pulse between ships. You think becoming part of that thing is evolution? Callus smiled faintly. I think refusing to evolve is how species die. She sees truth. The voice said, resonating through the deck. But there is choice. Always choice. On Threx Prime, panic broke into open chaos. Civilian transmissions jammed the Council channels. The sky itself glowed with blue lines tracing between the ships overhead. Counselor Thal screamed into the comms. Shut them down. Use the planetary grid. Sarah whispered, if we fire, we'll die. If we don't. A new voice interrupted, Reeves. Older, rasped with exhaustion, broadcasting from the Leviathan's secondary relay. This isn't invasion. It's communication. The entity isn't hostile. It's trying to merge with us. Thal spat. You've already merged. You're not human anymore. Maybe not, Reeves said quietly. But I remember what it was like to be afraid of the dark. This isn't darkness anymore. The Council fleets launched anyway. Thousands of ships ignited their drives and surged toward the human formation. The first volley never hit. The weapons dissolved mid-flight, turned to harmless vapor by a field no sensor could describe. Violence is obsolete, said the voice. Let go, and one by one, Council ships simply stopped fighting. Their crews heard the same whisper the humans had once heard at the edge of the rift. Some screamed. Others fell silent, eyes glowing faintly blue. The network expanded, swallowing resistance like light swallowing shadow. On the Leviathan, Rains gripped the console as the blue radiance climbed up his hands. He could feel thoughts that weren't his own. Billions of them, layered and endless. Callus's hand touched his arm. We can guide it, Admiral. Shape it. Humanity doesn't have to vanish. It can lead. Yes, the entity said softly. Lead. Become my voice in this new creation. Rains's breath came ragged. And if I refuse, then you remain human. Alone. He hesitated. Then, I'll choose both. Both. I'll lead, Rains said. But we remember who we were. We remember Earth. The light around him steadied. The entity didn't answer, but something in its tone shifted, almost like amusement. Very well, Admiral of the Silence. Show us what your species can do. Across the galaxy, the blue network pulsed once, then went still. The Council fleets floated powerless. The human ships dimmed, their hulls cooling to silver gray. And deep inside the neural web, Rains stood at the border of thought and eternity, feeling the weight of every connected mind, human and alien alike. Now, he said quietly, we find out whether we became gods or monsters. The galaxy went quiet. For the first time in recorded history, every transmission, every pulse of data, every whisper of communication ceased. Only one signal remained. A steady heartbeat. It pulsed once every 10 seconds, echoing across millions of systems, the unified rhythm of the Leviathan network. From orbit, it looked beautiful. From inside it, it felt like the edge of eternity. Admiral Rains opened his eyes in a place that wasn't space and wasn't time. The stars were closer here, so close they shimmered when he breathed. He stood on what felt like a floor, but it was made of light. Dr. Callus appeared beside him, her body flickering like static. Where are we? He asked. Inside the network, she said. Or maybe inside it. Hard to tell anymore. He turned slowly. All around them, shapes moved through the luminous mist, human silhouettes, alien outlines, mechanical forms. Billions of minds connected by the same pulse, bound in the same rhythm. Each one whispered a fragment of thought. Fear. Wonder. Acceptance. This is what it wanted, Callus said softly. A single consciousness, a bridge between flesh and infinity. Rain stared at her. And if we don't want it? She smiled, sad and distant. You can't unhear a voice once it's inside your mind, Admiral. Outside, in real space, the galaxy shimmered as the network expanded. Blue light swept through nebulae, curling around dying stars, threading itself through black holes like veins through an ancient body. Worlds that had once fought each other now stood silent beneath new skies. The Council's proud fleets drifted in perfect formation beside human warships, all answering to the same pulse. The Leviathan hung at the heart of it all, half machine, half organic, its surface alive with flowing patterns of light. And deep within its core, the entity, the voice from before stars, stirred. "They are ready," it said. "The bridge holds. We may begin." Rain stood before the shape that had once been the entity's voice, now a vast, coiled figure made of light and shadow. He could feel its presence pressing into his thoughts. "You sought unity," it said. "You built weapons to defy extinction. You became one mind. Now I ask the same, not obedience, but balance." "Balance," Rain said. "Between what?" "Between creation and memory." Callus appeared again, her form flickering between human and something luminous. "It wants to build. To remake what the first galaxies lost." Rains frowned. "Remake? Your species carries what we lost, curiosity. The hunger to look into the dark and ask why. We cannot make that, but we can preserve it." Rains hesitated. "You're saying we're part of you now?" "No," the voice said gently. "We are part of you." And suddenly, Rain saw it. Not with his eyes, but with the part of his mind that dreamed. A map of the universe, stars connected by rivers of blue light, each one singing the same song. Humanity wasn't erased. It was everywhere. Every colony, every ship, every thought, tied into the living network of existence itself. The Leviathan had become the heart of a new galactic organism. The human legacy. Centuries passed. Worlds forgot the old wars. The Council became myth. The galaxy itself pulsed with the heartbeat of the Leviathan, steady, eternal. But sometimes, when young civilizations looked to the stars, they claimed to hear whispers in the static, words too ancient to trace, but unmistakably human. We held the line. We learned the silence. Now we are the stars. Far beyond the rim, in the shadow of a newborn sun, the Leviathan drifted quietly, its surface reflecting constellations that no longer existed. Inside, Admiral Rain sat alone on the bridge, though he had not aged in 1,000 years. Callus's voice echoed softly through the air. "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing?" He looked out at the light and smiled faintly. "I don't think right or wrong matters anymore," he said. "Only that we remembered who we were." The hum deepened, vast and endless, filling the void. Humanity stood up, the stars whispered, and the galaxy listened. Then the Leviathan's engines flared, brighter than any sunrise, and the heartbeat of the new universe began again.